Banging Thursday. So happy it's Thursday. And I'll talk to you about what's going on right now in the situation in the Middle East, specifically with Trump having been elected president. So he'll be sworn in January of 2025, which is still a couple months away. And the impact that that's having on the whole situation in the Middle East, including in Israel, in relation to the war with Hamas and the Hezbollah and the Houthis and Iran and the hostages that Hamas holds in Gaza and the ongoing fighting in Judea and Samaria when the IDF has to raid various areas because of terrorists that they suspect are actively about to carry out attacks. And of course, the Hezbollah in South Lebanon and in Lebanon in general, but specifically the assets that they have south of the Litani River in violation of the UN Resolution 1701, and the related assets that they have throughout Lebanon, which are illegal for them to have since they are a terrorist organization. And what Israel is doing to remove those things, and the Houthis and their insane attacks against Israel that are, of course, funded by Iran with weapons they get from Iran and indirectly from Russia, and the attacks that they launch on ships going through the Red Sea, where they attack them and have actually attacked Russian flagged ships going, for example, towards Egypt or Israel or Saudi Arabia or Jordan. And the insanity of that, because the Houthis are getting essentially munitions and funding indirectly from Russia by way of it going from Russia to Iran for oil and other things. Even though Russia has its own export of oil, there's trade. But obviously Russia sells arms to Iran, and Iran sends many of those weapons to the Houthis in Yemen. So it's crazy. What is the end game here? How does this play out, right? What are the probabilities that the war will end in the coming months as President Trump comes to power again? And this time he will have not only the power of the executive, he will also have the power of the majority in the Senate and a majority apparently in the House. And obviously he has a very conservative Supreme Court that might be even more conservative in the next 4 years. Tuna farmer. Yeah, Matt, tuna farmers. What are the probabilities that the war will come to a peaceful end, that Israel will be victorious, or that Israel will lose the war? Well, if Israel loses the war, first of all, there's a very small probability that that would happen, because, well, if Israel loses the war, it has a Masada option. And if you don't know what the Masada option is, well, you can Google it. But it basically means that Israel has the capacity to counterstrike even the worst kind of possible attack that it might suffer. If, for example, Iran were to get some kind of WMD, or if anybody would get a WMD and launch it at Israel and actually successfully hit Israel with it and cause a catastrophic destruction of the state of Israel, Israel has the capacity, even after it ceases to be a viable nation state, to launch enough counterstrikes at the offending party to effectively decapitate them and decimate them as a nation state as well. Finish the lyrics. Don't touch my track, bro. Finish the lyrics. I don't know what you're saying, Kelly, but okay. So the probabilities of Israel being eliminated as a nation state are slim to none, but they are always probabilities, and that is why the Israeli government and Ministry of Defense, and the defense establishment in Israel has to take all threats actively and seriously, and cannot just ignore the threats and pretend like they don't exist, even if Israel has the capacity to deliver a hammer blow that would effectively decapitate any particular enemy currently attacking it, or even group of enemies. Now, why doesn't Israel do that? Well, part of Israel's philosophy is to not simply destroy entire nations just because they exist. Even if they want to destroy Israel, Israel wants to live in peace and prosperity side by side with its neighbors, all of its neighbors, and even countries far away that don't even share a border with it, like Yemen or Iran. It wants to achieve peace with those nations and have economic cooperation and all cultural exchanges and all this kind of stuff. But obviously those nations need to come out of the dark ages, and they need to accept that there is such a thing as a state for the Jews, by the Jews and about the Jews, and that state is called Israel. And it has the right to exist and the right to defend itself against insane bloodlust genocidal ideologies. Right? So that's why Israel doesn't just preemptively destroy these countries. And of course, there's the political pressure, which kind of makes it harder or almost impossible for them to do that without, actually being able to demonstrate that they are in a situation that if they don't do that, they would cease to exist as a state. So Israel cannot just destroy these countries for no reason, even if it would make the war end. Right? Israel does whatever it can to find a non-violent solution. When you look at the normal distribution and the Laplace distribution, the probabilities on both of those distribution models indicate, if you calculate the different conflicts that have happened since 1948, that once again, kinetically speaking, at the end of this current conflict, this current cycle of the conflict, or phase of the conflict, that's been going on for more than a century now between Jews and people who don't want Jews to live in Israel. The probabilities are, on really all of the distribution models, that Israel has a significant probability of surviving this current phase of the conflict, and doing so quite well. Now the question is, how well will it do? What will its probability be of actually achieving victory? And what will the probabilities be of its enemies admitting defeat and finally giving up their bloodlust genocidal dreams and making peace with Israel? And the answer to those questions, unfortunately at the moment, is not so great. Kinetically, Israel has a high probability of winning. Like, really high probability. But the probability that its enemies will simply give up their fight and actually admit defeat is very slim. For one very simple reason. And that very simple reason is the nations that Israel is currently fighting are ideologically genocidal. Now, when I say that, I mean they actually want the end of the world. I don't say that lightly. They pray every day for Armageddon. I'm not even joking. They pray every day for the end of the world. Will they get their prayers answered? I sure hope not. But that's what they pray for, and that is their ideology. And even if they say they're willing to negotiate, as Iran is now saying, because they're obviously scared of what's going to happen once Trump becomes president again, these are that whatever they tell you, they're fundamentalist many times to stop their belligerent ways. They keep lying. If they could have their negotiation, the thing is, they know what they're going to do. Right? They didn't actually allow inspectors from the UN to do their job. They didn't actually reduce their production rates of uranium. They didn't actually slow down their atomic program. To be honest, I would be surprised if Iran does not already have nuclear weapons, even those that can be loaded onto an ICBM. And I mean that. I would be very surprised if Iran does not already have ICBM capable nuclear warheads. So over 1,000 ballistic missiles that they shot at Israel this year. We're doing a lot of about that many in the course of 3 years, as Iran shot in 2 nights when it attacked Israel. So there is no comparison between what Iran is doing and what Russia is doing. It's absolutely not comparable. Does that mean that Iran is going to go the way of the dodo? Because if they attack Israel again with a similar type of attack, and maybe worse, that Israel will simply decimate Iran? My polite guess is no. That's not going to happen. That's a different question as to whether or not it should. I don't think it should. I know there are crazy war hawks who say, yeah, decimate Iran. I don't think the solution is in decimating Iran. I think the solution is in giving the Iranian people, really the Persian people, the ability to force a change in their government. And that means that Israel should enable whatever it can to help the people of Iran remove the people ruining their government. And yes, I chose the word ruining carefully. Their government is corrupt. Their government supports terrorism. Their government is directly involved in terrorism. Their government is a terrorist government. And it should be ended. But it is the people of Iran who should end it. Because if the people of Israel try to end the Iranian government, that will not go down well. Right? Israel does not have an expeditionary military force capable of causing regime change in a nation as large as Iran. But Israel does have the ability to cause the people of Iran to have enough motivation to take down their evil government. Now the question is whether or not Israel will actually do it. Because doing that will also enable the end of the war with Hamas and the Hezbollah and the Houthis, since without Iran's backing, it would be just about impossible for those other actors to continue fighting their war against Israel. So we shall see what it will be, whether or not Iran will have its regime changed or will actually acquiesce and negotiate in good faith when Trump becomes president again. And while it certainly would be premature to assume that just because Trump becomes president again and has some hawkish people in his cabinet, that all of a sudden all will be well in the Middle East, it is not premature to presume that there will be notable changes in the Middle East as a result of Trump's reascension to power. And as such, it is entirely probable that we will see some kind of change. Whether it's minor, negligible, significant, time will tell. Anyway, with that, I bid you good day. Peace and shalom and salam. Well, shalom anyway. Maybe not salam, because if you don't know what that means, it means surrender. And I don't think people should surrender unless they've done something very bad. So shalom, pax, peace. And that's it. If you guys want more of this type of information and maybe deeper analysis, maybe you want me to interview some people who are in the field or in the smoky back rooms of power, then let me know in the comments and like and subscribe and all that, so I see that this is of interest, and I will do what I can to bring you even more amazing and incredible insight about what's going on in the Middle East. Okay, that's it. Take care. Cheers.